All right, let's go right into it. All right, so this Mazinkaiser that I'm up against is on this player's 1v1 team. They're actually using it in King of Mechs as their anchor. I'm not sandbagging here by fighting some level 1 1-star pilot with no parts equipped. This is the real deal. Oh, also just to mention, the player whose Mazinkaiser I picked, he's a player that's currently in the top 100 Legendary Arena. So he at least knows a little bit about what he's doing. However, I will say that this is only a 1v1 setup. Don't expect to get anywhere with Melonkaiser in 4v4 PvP. Uh, the reason why this is good and the reason why this works is because at low star, you saw that I've got a 4-star Melonkaiser here with no weapon upgrade. I can kind of lock down enemies by cycling through grabs, similar to the way that Zon Wu would be able to do so. Except it's even better, I think. The grabs are stronger. It basically has a copy of Ashura's Slam Jam skill, and it's got a counterattack that will teleport it behind enemies. So it's actually very strong at 4-star. And I would actually recommend that you do not upgrade Melonkaiser past 4-star, in fact. The weapon upgrades in particular are very bad because they will interrupt you cycling through your abilities, and some of them. Oh, I just killed Mazinkaiser there. Barely took any damage even. I'm gonna restart this fight and show that that's not a fluke. I meant to hit the hide data button. Whatever. All right. So as I said, um, don't upgrade past 4-star. The weapon upgrades in particular actually make the mech quite a bit worse. And even the ultimate ability upgrade is something that you don't particularly want because the animation is way too long for how good the ability is. You would much rather be using your other abilities in the time that it takes that animation to complete. Um, but really don't get the weapon upgrades, especially the top weapon upgrade that unlocks that beam attack, which makes you stand still and hardly does any damage. It's really horrible. Don't get the second weapon upgrade on Melonkaiser. In fact, in this build, I don't even get the first weapon upgrade. So aside from being 4-star, I'm using Mo Ray as my pilot here. I think that she's probably one of, if not the strongest pilot that's around currently. Uh, the reason for that is she's got two very good kind of get out of jail free cards that are disengages. She goes stealth whenever she uses an attack that has a cooldown of 7 seconds or longer. Stealth is very strong right now because there's not a lot of things that deal with stealth pilots. And she's got their teleport behind you. But the real reason is I'm using her to smooth out the action cycle because you can't quite chain the grabs perfectly, but if her freeze the enemy effect happens between the grabs, then that helps a lot. Alright, that fight was a little closer. Almost died that time, but I still won. So, for the rest of this build, um, as I've said, you want to chain your grabs as much as possible. Having lower cooldown helps that. Since I was facing off against Mazinkaiser, I used this instead of the white cooldown core because this increases damage, and Mazinkaiser has that chassis effect where you're not doing any damage at all unless you can pass a certain threshold, so this is to help with that. Uh, just good all-around shell. It's always good to get health back when you attack, and it's an attack increase, whatever. Emergency detachment system, you basically need this, especially because Mazinkaiser has some very powerful abilities, and you want to stymie that incoming damage. If you get hit by those, you want to cut it off the way that emergency detachment system cuts off your incoming damage. Sometimes this part can actually be bad in 1v1 because it lets your opponent cook their cooldowns while you're doing nothing, while you're detached. But against Mazinkaiser, it's definitely a really good thing to have. Obviously, Firm Steel is basically the only armor that you can have equipped. Like in any of the versus modes right now, it's kind of stupid how much better it is than like all your other armor options. You can run some of the other armors on some mechs if you have like Tenacity Copilot or something, but like Firm Steel is just so good. This, since I was doing a 1v1, I'm going to mostly be facing the enemy that I'm fighting, which means that you're going to get the full effect out of tilted structure most of the time. And then my co-pilot, this is a weird pick for attack slot here. I'm only using it because, like I said, I wanted to chain the grabs as effectively as possible, and that means cutting out the in-between time between the grabs. So that's why I'm using this pet, and that's why I'm using this co-pilot, because they both speed up the way the mech acts and will help it pick good actions. Really, though, for co-pilot, if you don't have this guy because you can't get him because he was a co-pilot, there's a bunch of different co-pilots that you could use. Basically, any good defense skill or even support skills that give you health back periodically, like love or first aid or something. Those would also be good. And I really wish that I could just make a team completely out of Morays. But the thing is, you can only run a pilot on your team in one slot unless, where is he? Unless you're this guy, and then you can just have two Barmovs on your team. If you're this guy, I don't know what's going on here. Somebody should look into this. But yeah, that's the build. Beats Mazinkaiser 1v1. There you have it.